Hello, and welcome to episode 92 of the SheGulls Podcast, powered by Albion Obsessed, the one and only podcast dedicated to Brighton and Hove Albion women's football team. I'm your host, Duncan. I'm joined today by fellow Albion fans, Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Duncan.
By Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Duncan.
And by Abby. Hello, Abby.
Hello, Duncan.
And Ben suffered an injury now. He will need a small timeout. And he'll have
even
to
70 minutes yet.
Make sure to clutch your head as you fall over, Ben.
Yeah.
So you
hit your hand. So
cry
make
a little bit.
head...
If you can put some tears on, that would be really good.
There we go. What a start. There we go. Yes. So I mean, we're all happy. We're all ecstatic. I'm sure most people will know by now that we are indeed FA Cup semi-finalists. Everyone, hooray! He says at 9 o'clock at night with kids in the house. Huzzah! Yes, incredible news, incredible game yesterday. Myself and Claire were there, and I know Ben and Abby have imbibed the highlights and the excitement of the day via replay or live at the time if possible, because I know TNT is not the easily accessible providers of FA Cup, unfortunately. So shame we couldn't be on Channel 4, but there we go. They decided to go elsewhere. That's their mistake. They won't make that mistake twice. When they hear that the Albion beat Arsenal by 2-0 away from home in the FA Cup quarter-final.
Maybe they should have played at the Emirates.
Maybe they should have. Yeah.
And that was kind of ironic. That was kind of ironic that they're blaming the pitch.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I must admit, I've seen a lot of chatter after the thing. Oh, yeah, that pitch. Oh, it's a ploughed field. I thought,
terrible
pitch.
Do you want to postpone by any chance?
Yeah,
no?
did you want to postpone it? Yeah. Apparently the ball is weird, and
it's all terrible.
It's a weird ball that bounces weirdly. I don't know.
They hadn't paid the referee enough.
Yeah, it was just a cacophony of nonsense. Basically, it just self-explanatory detritus that they were using to accept the fact that they just weren't the better team on the day and they lost the game. So we have to take our medicine as Albion fans, and it's Arsenal fans who have to take their medicine today. So yes, so we might as well start off with that. I think I'll start with Claire. I located Claire up there. She got there nice and early. The coach was a little bit, I wouldn't say delayed, but we did join a little bit later. We had a brief little stop due to some coffee requirements by some members of the congregation. So you do get a slightly better cup at Starbucks normally than at the stadium. So that's fair enough. But Claire, I mean, from the moment you got there, was there a sort of atmosphere, do you think, of hope amongst the Albion fans? And obviously, then give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it was a no. You couldn't lose. Do you know what I mean? Because we weren't expected to win. But I felt, when you looked at the situation between the two clubs, we are reasonably safe. We're not going to win anything, lose anything in the WSL. We're not going to get relegated. This was our thing to go for. But equally for Arsenal, they really want to win the Champions League, and they really need to do something in the WSL to make sure they're in the Champions League next season. So I just thought, if anything, this is the weak link for them. This is the one that they're not going to be. They want to win it for pride, but they're not going to be that bothered if they don't. And I thought that opened a door for us if we was to step forward and take it, and we did. And I think, we came out of the blocks, and we've said it so many times for games with this show. When we play like that and we go at them, at any team, we whack them one. We win it. We knock them off their socks. They don't know what to do. We were first to the ball. We were first to, our first touch was impeccable yesterday, which has not been the case for a long while. Every little pass we did, people were moving for it. There was movement again. It just, everything seemed to just all gel. and you just kind of started to think, when we got to half time, it was 0-0. You sort of think, we definitely have a chance here. This is definitely going our way. And, obviously Arsenal rested a few players, but they're a super squad. They're a top 4 team. They can afford generally to have Chloe Kelly sitting on the bench. If you've got a squad where you've got Chloe Kelly sitting on the bench, then there's no excuse to say, we played our second team. That your team is a first team.
The first team, yeah, I
So
agree.
it didn't matter. They had World Cup players on the pitch. They had European champions on the pitch. They had, Asian Cup finalists on the pitch. They couldn't beat us. They couldn't get past our defence, and we got past theirs twice. And we should have had another 2 at least, I think. If Fran Kirby's foot had been half a size bigger, she scores that slide in. It just was inches, and you just like, yeah, I think we were the better team. We won it, and up the Albion, stuff the Arsenal.
Amen to that. Preach. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was the first half was almost it was almost a double cliche. It was a first half of 2 halves, and we certainly looked really good out the block. And I think one of the things that they seem to be trying to do, which actually is a tactic that's worked on occasion for us, was by having 3 centre backs. We'd seem to go back to 3 centre backs and two wide defenders / midfielders. And what that meant was that one of the centre backs could carry the ball, could go forward with the ball, and they were struggling a lot in the first sort of 10-15 minutes at least, because Manu was just, when she was getting the ball, she was just taking it, and they were like, well, who's supposed to be marking her because she's a defender? So she'd get sort of 3/4 of the way up the pitch, and then she'd pass it and stuff. But again, we looked way more incisive, I would say, than we have. It wasn't the good old, let's get 3/4 of the way and then there's someone in front of me, let's lay it all the way back. Like
I thought Maisie had the best game I've seen of her all season.
Yeah.
She was everywhere. Everything she did, she was sticking her foot in. She got the ball. She won the ball. She passed the ball. Every time she passed it, it pretty much went to one of our players. It was just really lovely to watch it all, and for it all to come good, and for us not to have to be, we played well, but never mind. We were ecstatic. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it felt quite proactive, I would say. Like where we're quite. I don't know whether it's because it's a quote unquote stronger team in theory, not necessarily in practice, but in theory that we didn't really have so much time to pass it back to ourselves. So we didn't, I don't know whether that was the case, or whether, Dario had kind of gone out and said, look, there's no point in passing it around the back, against Arsenal, because they're just going to wait and try and hit us on the counter and stuff, which they were trying to do. But I think because we were forcing them back into their own half, which we often don't do, we're often camped in our own half, which means that we just get wave after wave of attack. We were attacking so much, they couldn't attack because we were already in their half doing something. And that is just a complete sea change in a way to what we often see with the Albion, which is,
backing off, letting them run. Yeah,
exactly. So that was really pleasant. I'll come to Ben next. I mean, is that the sort of sense that you got from watching it on the TV, that it felt like Brighton were trying to be more proactive than reactive, and that we did seem to be a little bit more I don't know what the word would be, sort of coherent going forward, rather than it being sort of like a getting there and then having to decide what's going on? There felt like a little bit more structure to it, maybe.
Yeah, it was just much more dynamic than it often is. I think again we do say that the bigger clubs sort of give you more space because they want space themselves. They don't park the bus, that sort of thing. So you do get more place to play in. But I think this is something I forgot to mention last week at Leicester. Actually, we were out of the blocks because so often there've been games where it's taken the old sort of pre-match Oval team as takes us sort of 10 minutes to get going sometimes, which in the old days we'd be 2-0 down a lot of the time. But so you look at Leicester at the Amex, they had the first 15 minutes, Leicester might have scored. You know, they were kind of quite, you know, and we took a while to get moving. Whereas last week against Leicester, we were at them straight away. And, you know, yesterday, as recording, you know, the third, 2 minutes gone, Fran and Yeli Chankovic are robbing Kim Little in the middle of the field, and Yeli Chankovic takes a few more yards forward and then smacks it one, and Daphne Van Domsla's tipping over the bar, like, you know, 2.5 minutes gone.
Did you feel then like that was almost like Yeli going, here's a reminder of last season? Do you know what I mean? Putting them on the back foot instantly with a shot like that. Yeah. And then from the corner, you know, this wasn't the best corner, but Manu gets a header which has to be kind of cleared off the line, and then it comes out to Charlie and she has a shot which is cleared off the line, and it's like we haven't had 3 minutes yet, and we could have scored about 2 or 3 times. So and then obviously Arsenal got back into it and stuff, and they sort of sorted themselves out and things, but it just, you know, as you say, I mean, Manu coming forward, breaking the lines, and they don't quite know how to deal with this extra sort of player coming through the midfield and things. And I think, again, you know, with my little Carlo Camacho fan club flag, I don't know why Kiko went off. She had a slight injury.
I'm hoping it was tactical, because I think that almost seemed to be the one thing that Arsenal could deal with us was kind of Kiko. They'd kind of done their Kiko homework, and she wasn't having an enormous amount of joy. And so Dario was like, well, we'll try something else then. Puts on Carla. And, you know, within 2.5 minutes of Carla being on the pitch, Maddie scored. You know, I'm going to give Maddie a bit of credit for that goal. But no, I mean, it wasn't not working. But I think they were dealing with Kiko a bit more than they were dealing with everybody else. So it was like, well, we'll take Kiko off and we'll put Carla on and we'll see how they deal with her. And they couldn't. And then, you know, just 2 amazing goals. And I think, you know, I mean, Fran was awarded the player of the match sort of on the day by, I'm not sure who, the Sky Sports people, I suppose. And Chia won the fan vote. And again, I'm not going to sort of, it's a bit sort of confusing because Chia didn't have much to do. She made one really good save, which was like Holmberg point blank. Which, you know, if Holmberg's a striker, not a fullback, that probably would have gone in. But Chia made herself big and got in the way of it, which was, you know. And then a couple of good saves. But otherwise, she really didn't have much to do, did she? Whereas poor old Daff was up the other end. When she's not fishing the ball out of the back of her net, she's having to palm things and parry things and all sorts. So, yeah, I think, you know, so I heard something, I've forgotten who it was now, that somebody at the draw this evening was saying, oh, yeah, Arsenal, blah, 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 blah. And Brighton took their chances. So, well, no, we didn't take our chances. We took the chance. We took the chance to be the better team.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a smash and grab. You know, I think, again, if you watch it on YouTube, it's Ben, I've forgotten his surname again, Ben Edwards, I think it is, the commentator. And he's basically, this isn't a smash and grab. This was Brighton coming to Arsenal and playing them off, not playing them off the pitch, but playing better than them, totally deserving it. It was fun. It was amazing, and as Claire said, it could have been 4 if Fran hadn't cut her toenails that morning.
Yeah.
And you know, there would have been assists from Carla Camacho. He said, waving his flag. Yeah. So it was just, everything was working, everything was coming through, and just amazing. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think Gilly Flaherty as well. Obviously, she's ex-Arsenal. I saw her. I think she was doing commentary for someone, maybe 5 Live.
She was on 5 Live, yeah.
5 Live, yeah. And she kind of said, like, obviously Arsenal weren't at their best, but again, a similar thing of like, but Brighton just came up and kind of played better football and just, you know, it wasn't like an upset. It was just Brighton were the better team. And, you know, they made the most of their opportunities, and Arsenal didn't really create that many. And even the ones they didn't take. So, you know, which was kind of similar to, I think maybe the 4-2, if I remember rightly. They had a lot of shots in that game last season, but they were often straight down Bagger's throat and stuff like that. And it was like, they just weren't they weren't quite on it, and we were, right there from minute number one, exactly like we were here. So I think that's super impressive. And you do wonder if, one of the things we've noticed this season is they do seem to be out warming up closer to kickoff time. So whether that is kind of paying dividends in that they're kind of they're going back in almost like, having a quick team talk and coming straight back out, and they almost feel already ready to go, rather than the kind of, we've spent half an hour just in there talking and stuff like that, and now we've got to kind of come out and re-stretch and all that sort of stuff. I'm not too sure, but I'm not sure about Kiko. I don't know whether we know definitively whether it was tactical or a slight knock. But the thing I would say about Camacho, to me, is she was the right substitute at the right time, from the perspective of Dario's been a bit critical about her sort of defensive capabilities and stuff. I personally think in a cup game that's a little bit less important, because if you don't score, you can't win the game. And to me, I still didn't think she was sort of necessarily 100% in the right place at the right time all the time. You could see Dario kind of pointing and stuff like that. But what I think he told her to really do was put pressure on that defense.
Make a nuisance of yourself.
If you see the ball, go to get the ball. Let everyone else behind you worry about where they're supposed to be. You just be like relentless, aggressive, make a nuisance of yourself, etc. And I think that was perfect for her. She didn't seem to be overthinking things. It was literally, see ball, get ball, go sort of thing. And I think that worked really well.
I mean, again, we keep on to say she's only 20.
Yeah.
But she is very much an instinctive player, I think, which is perhaps why it didn't work at Chelsea.
I think
because she was having to think about where she was and what she was doing. Whereas Sunday at Arsenal, she was just chasing the ball and harrying and almost getting 2 assists.
And it really paid off. So credit to her, and that's what you want to see, right? Is when a player comes on or whatever, that they're making you think, oh, would they be better, maybe starting this so-and-so game, or maybe certain games now Dario might think, well, if we don't need to be quite as defensive in this game, maybe I can play Carla, maybe not bog her down with so many instructions, and kind of let her go out and kind of be Carla and press the line and stuff like that. So Abby, I think you were did you manage to catch a TNT on TNT in the end live, or
some? I was interrupted by a mother-in-law bearing chocolate eggs.
Oh, okay.
Which was very poor timing.
Right,
I did miss the first goal. But I did a hybrid, so I watched some of it, and then I got sort of fed up with their commentary, so I listened to the 5 Live commentary, which was about half a second different to what I was watching, but it was good enough. And I will say I actually quite enjoyed the 5 Live commentary. I don't often enjoy listening to football games and not watching, but they did a really good job. And they were, as Ben said, they were very complimentary about the defence and about the fact that it wasn't just Arsenal losing, it was Brighton winning. And I think sometimes in the Cup, you can get an upset by squeaking a goal in and then parking the bus, and then that's the end of it. We didn't do that. We dominated that game from the first minute to the last minute, and they really didn't look like they were going to get back in. I thought at one point they might get one back to make it 1-0, and then when 8 minutes went up, I was like, my heart started. I was like, where on earth did that come from? Stop it.
Yeah, we were flabbergasted by that.
But actually, all's well that ends well, which was lovely.
Yeah.
But it was nice to watch, and I had a nice chalky egg for the second half.
Yeah, I think that was actually one of the really biggest points. Actually, was that we didn't just sit back once we got 2 goals. We kept going. Yeah, we kept going, and we could easily have got more. And I think that was the big difference, because that meant Arsenal couldn't come at us because they were too busy dealing with us still. Yeah. They were dealing with us from minute 1. And I think with Carla coming on, she had such an energy about her that she clearly taken on board what had been said previously. And she was running rings around them. She just was causing a problem, causing a nuisance. She was whipping along, finding the balls. Fran was finding her. She was finding Fran. They were working really, really hard and really well. that Arsenal just couldn't get out the blocks. They couldn't do anything. And then I think where Chia probably does win that player of the match award is that last 10 minutes when Arsenal just threw everything forward then, and they were just pelting her goal, and she was like, no, not today.
There was at one point, I think I said to you all that the girls were literally almost all of them putting their bodies on from the line, because it was any body part that wasn't an arm went in the way of a strike from Arsenal. And it was almost like we used to do a thing in cadets called the falling plates, and you just had to shoot these plates to fall down at the end of a competition. And it was almost like that. It was just like, the ball bouncing off players and then somebody else having another go. And it was like an onslaught. And they just dealt with it brilliantly. But I think that's the beauty of these knockout cup games is that, and it's, again, I know, Duncan, you and I are, NFL lovers. You do get a sense of that in the NFL, partly because the Americans are just passionately opposed to a draw for some reason. Yeah. But it is that there's so few games you've got to win or else it's disastrous. And it's that magic of the FA Cup that I think they've not quite captured in the other cup yet, because you do have that group stage. This is you win, you go forward, you lose, you get nothing. And it forces teams sometimes, I think, to play a little bit differently. In the league, a draw is still a point, and well done us, pat on backs, we didn't lose, and off we go. Whereas there isn't a draw here.
Yeah, you just keep going.
You just keep going until somebody wins, or the other team just falls over. And I like that sometimes I wouldn't want to watch it every week, but I think there's something just extra about these knockout cup games that gives the team that something extra, something different, and something to go for. Because as you said, we're not winning anything else. We're not losing either. We are comfortably mid-table. Thank you very much. But this is a very real possibility, and I think they realise that. And I think there was also some other emotional bits going on in the background with Rado and Dario, and birthdays and this, that, and the other. And I thought it just all came together. Yeah. At a game that I wasn't at.
Next time. It was Rado's birthday, I think, the day before. So on Easter, no, not I was going to say Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday was the game, so it would have been the Saturday. Yeah. So, but obviously, I don't think many people knew that. Certainly, we weren't really aware of it amongst the crowd. So it was nice to hear afterwards that they kind of had him in mind and stuff. You don't want to jinx it in advance of time and sort of say we're going to go and do it for him and then get smashed 5-0. Because then it seems like you weren't putting in your 100%. So no, they did it the right way, and like Dario said, I'm sure he was up there or around there somewhere, keeping an eye on everyone. So that was nice. And then I think it's Dario's birthday on Wednesday, so a nice early birthday present for him. I was going to say, I think you all mentioned to a certain extent, the fact that we were more attacking. I think one of the things that I noticed, particularly because we were shooting towards the away end in the second half, obviously it was fantastic to have a couple of goals down our end. I mean, for goodness sake, like we never get any goals down our end normally.
2 games on the trot now.
Yeah, exactly.
They're setting a record. They're going to have
the only goals we get are against us at our end. So that was refreshing. But yeah, exactly like you're saying about, with Carla and, us being further up and not stopping attacking, was when we played against Chelsea, you could really tell that for the most part, probably from about half time almost, they'd gone to basically 2 at the back, because they didn't really feel like we could trouble their back line or get in behind them, or they just weren't worried about our attack at all.
Yeah.
Whereas at times Arsenal were having to leave four players back because they were absolutely petrified that Carla or someone else was going to get in behind them or get down the flank. And a few times she did. And that meant that they couldn't really go gung-ho until the last sort of 5-10 minutes, which is when they did start to leave 1 or 2 defenders back. But then equally, I think if we'd have carried on, if that game had another 10-15 minutes, or it had finished 0-0 and we'd carried on, I think we would have started to expose them for being so, for kind of going so high so late. But that's what we've spoken about before, is you need to make the opposition defense concerned about your attack, because that means that they have to leave a certain amount of players back, or maybe they have to leave their tallest player back because you've got a big striker, big target striker. Ergo, when there's crosses and stuff, that player can't be up there in the box, for corners and things, because they're worried about what happens when the ball gets lost and things like that. If you've got someone pacey, then you have to leave someone pacey in defense, because if the ball gets lumped forward and it's Kiko against Millie Bright, we'll see you later, Millie. So it's posing these questions to the opposition, and a lot of the time, over the last few seasons, we haven't asked the opposition defense enough questions throughout the games. We've kind of been happy to sort of probe away, and that they kind of know what they're dealing with. Then it's different if we can then turn that kind of probing into an actual result. If we can actually get a goal. Sometimes we are going to get a goal just by trying to score, but sometimes you kind of have to go down other routes and avenues and stuff, and not start asking different questions, so that when the next ball comes down the flank, they don't know that you're always going to cross it in, or you're always going to cut it back, or you're always going to do this. If you've got someone fast, it might be a ball over the top, or it might be a ball down the wing to Kiko, or whatever. And then suddenly they're having to think more. The more you have to do, the more you have to contend with, the more likely it is that they're going to make a mistake. And I don't really think either of Arsenal's goals were like out and out mistakes. I think from the corner, the marking was a bit iffy. I'll maybe ask Ben about that in a minute. But they weren't like, it wasn't like they were sort of mucking around at the back and they laid it off to us or anything. We had to work hard to score those goals and get those opportunities, but we kind of did it in ways where I felt like we don't do that enough a lot of the time. And that was really refreshing to see. So let's talk about the goals. I'll start with you, Abby. Do you want to take us through did you not see the first one or the second one?
I might have missed both of them.
But you've seen them now.
You've seen them
now. Okay.
No, I do know the result. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Take us through sort of Maddie's goal then. So pass from Fran and then.
Maddie. The one I know the least about. I'll go and ask Ben. Go on. I've seen them, and then you assume I remember stuff.
No, well, I don't mean in too much detail, but I mean particularly like the finish from Maddie.
That was exquisite.
It kind of comes across her, and I think a lot of us were kind of like, "Oh, it went really wide," and she had a defender to kind of get it past. So, is that probably something we need to see a bit more from Maddie? Is not necessarily the finishing, because I think she is a good finisher, but maybe being in the position to get those finishes.
I mean, you could say that we need to see goals in general from the team, and because that's what we've been missing this year, But yeah, it just all came together yesterday, with everyone being in the right place, talking to each other, knowing what they should be doing, and that's what we've been missing. We've seen crosses like that come in, seeing Fran take it across to Rosa, and it was, just not connecting, and it wasn't in the right place. And this time it worked. I thought it was just going to go through the corner net and into the crowd. It went in. It's beautiful. Yeah, we do. We need to see more of that. But we need to be a bit more consistent up front as well.
Yeah.
We do seem to be rotating forwards around, and whether it's that we're relying on Rosa and Rosa wasn't playing, so everyone else had to step up. Nothing against Rosa. I think she's a fantastic player, and the last few games, I think I'd quite like to keep her. But maybe there was something about how we were forced to play yesterday that meant that everyone was in the right place to do the right thing. And the same, we didn't have Kiko on the pitch at that point. So
yeah, that's very true. You're having to look down different, like I say, you're going to having to look down different avenues, aren't you, to get those goals. So, Claire, on that sort of first goal, I mean, Fran was she was sort of quite magnanimous about the pass, but she wasn't wrong. It wasn't the world's greatest pass, but
I think when you're Fran Kirby, you can get away with not doing the world's greatest pass, and it's still a good pass, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice she showed a little bit of humility and acknowledged, it could have maybe been a little bit better, but I mean, it ended in a goal. She got
sometimes when things are too perfect is when you cock it up, and I think maybe the fact that it wasn't perfect is why it worked. Do you know what I mean? Because I think you look at the Arsenal defenders, they are players who play in a perfect world. They would have been expecting the perfect ball and would have maybe intercepted that. It didn't come as a perfect ball. They missed it. Maddie gets it and, in her own words, levers it into the goal, because she just said she knew the angle was disappearing and she had to just hit it and hope that power took it past the goalie. And boy, did it. I mean, I would just like to see her take more of those opportunities, because sometimes I think she gets those opportunities and either is trying to lay it off for Kiko or someone else. And I just think, just lever it, girl. You've got the shot on you. What have you got to lose? Because had Dom Solar got that, it bounces back out and Fran's running in. So, there's still an opportunity there, even if it doesn't go in, but it does go in. And you were there, Duncan, with me. It was rather ecstatic in the small, tiny away section part that we did manage to get for ourselves. So, very exciting.
But it's what we've been saying, or what I've been saying all season, is that there are times where it looks like they are trying to get the perfect setup. And you can see them passing it around the box, which is like, oh, I'm not quite right. Oh, you have a go. I'm not quite right. And just keep them going. And what's that saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have just got to, hit it towards the guy and, leather it in.
Yeah.
And, this time it worked.
Actually, just to sort of rewind it a few passes as well, because that's something that Dario said after the game, was they got there with a game plan and then they saw the pitch and changed the game plan. Because I think, obviously we like to play intricate passes, we like to play accurate sort of balls on the ground and that kind of stuff. And suddenly they were like, this is a ploughed field, as Arsenal players will attest to. So they decided to kind of miss the midfield out, not the players, but, sort of rather than try and play it through the midfield, they decided to play it a bit longer and then do the intricate stuff when you got into the Arsenal box, which, that one is a testament to, because we have a little throw in sort of just inside the Arsenal half, I think, on the left-hand side, and Maisie throws it to Yelly, and Yelly passes it back to Maisie, and Maisie passes it to Maddie, and that was one of those. If she'd done that at Broadfield and I'd been sitting in the West Stand, we all would have just gone, ooh, because when Maisie does those passes, it wasn't the outside of her boot, but it was just absolutely pinpoint, landed on Maddie, and then Maddie lays it off to Fran. And again, breaks the line, runs around the corner, and basically outpaces Lea Cordina and Wallop. It was fantastic. It was a long ball, but it was a long pass. It wasn't a hoof.
Exactly.
It was one of the Maisie specials where she just puts it on the sixpence that she wants to put it on.
Yeah, it felt, again, I could feel like even with Caitlin and stuff a couple of times, that even when we were trying to clear the ball and stuff, we were trying to keep possession. We were trying to, she had a few misplaced ones in the first half, Caitlin, because I think she can absolutely
wind caught it, didn't it?
She can ping it like absolutely miles, but she loses a bit of accuracy, I think. But it felt again like we were really trying not to just put it anywhere. We were, if we were going to go long, we were going to try and put it in the vicinity of one of our players, or and when we were clearing the ball, or when we were trying to head the ball away from danger or crosses and stuff, we were trying to find one of our players and keep possession and stuff like that. So that was really really positive. And again, I think maybe just rubbed off on the whole team of like, well, let's not lose the ball for no reason. Let's not lose the ball because we're not good enough to pass it to each other. If they want the ball, they have to come and get it off us, not let them have it because we can't pass it to each other. So I think that was again really good. They were obviously very well drilled. And it seemed to work. And I think it does show that, often, journalists and stuff will ask about pitch conditions or weather conditions. And I think managers and coaches generally tend to say, well, it doesn't really affect us and we'll play our game and blah, blah, blah. But I actually think it probably affects them more than they would let on. And it can really, we've seen it, take games away from us and give games to us when it's been, certain conditions or whatever. So I think that's interesting that Dario kind of acknowledged that they did change the plan and it really worked. It really did work.
I'm glad. And I hope now that he just goes, let's just stick with that as the plan, because it's far more entertaining for us as fans for a start. You know what I mean? But I think it puts teams on the back foot straight away, where they obviously had a plan. And like, you've said and Ben said in the past, they look at our lack of striker and they think, not much for us to do defending. We can have this. And then when we come out like that and we go, oh really? Let's test that for you.
Yeah. Well, as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan to get punched in the face.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We need to punch them in the face really early. And it means that they then have to change their game plan, because they can't now, like you say, push up, because they're going to have to keep their defenders back to make sure there's someone to deal with us. And, I just think just play like that the whole time and use these next games to train ready for an FA Cup final, fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Let's talk about a couple of the players then, since we've sort of spoken about Cheer a little bit. Claire, was there anyone else who sort of stood out to you, or do you think it was very much? I think it really was a team performance, but were there any other players who you thought deserved sort of special mention? I know you said about Maisie.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think Maisie had one of her best games. I think Caitlin and Charlie and Minami in defence were just ruthless.
They really were.
They just got their bodies in the way of everything. They threw themselves at everything. I mean, listening to Arsenal fans today on social media is just hilarious how biased they are. They literally will defend, somebody shouting out from the crowd, punch the referee in the face or something, whilst then applauding Russo for pushing Manu when there's no ball to attack. She just pushes her twice in the, and you're just like, that's a yellow card. That's a yellow card every day. The ref misses it and you're like applauding it. And it's like, somebody done that if we'd have done that to any of their players, they'd be going nuts. But I thought Manu was brilliant. I think she has a way. I saw it when we was at Aston Villa with Rachel Daly. She can put her player into a position where they just get really angry with her and they just start kicking the shit out of her, and eventually one of them's gonna get something, because she just almost turns and laughs at them and just carries on. She doesn't care. But she had Beth Mead running all over the place at one point trying to get fouls. That was all Beth Mead could do, was kept falling over and hoping she would get a foul, and it was kind of embarrassing, I thought, really. If I'd been an Arsenal supporter, I'd have been a little bit embarrassed with some of the antics of our players, if that was mine. But yeah, I thought Manu was great. It just all throughout the whole team, even when the subs came on, I think we didn't, they were bringing subs on because they needed to change the game. We were bringing subs on because we were just like, should we get another one?
Yeah.
Should we try for free? Because, they were just brilliant. It was just brilliant all the way through. Loved it.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, Manu, I think she had a really good game. She's very experienced, and I think they thought that we were going to out physical them, and then when we actually played better than them, that confused them, because they thought what we were going to do was basically kick them from pillar to post and try and win that way, try and gut one out, a 0-0, and then nick it from a header.
Yeah.
And when we actually started playing lovely football, they were like,
What
So
do we
then
do
what they
now?
were trying to
We'll
do
kick
was
them.
exactly. But then what they tried to do was go, look, ref, they're out physicaling us. And to be fair, I thought the referee had a very wishy-washy game. But to be fair, she wasn't buying a lot of what they were selling. She bought a few. Don't get me wrong. She bought a few. But there were also quite a few where like Arsenal were absolutely apoplectic and thought it was us hending off and stuff. And the ref was like, play on. And you're thinking, yeah, it wasn't a foul. It was like barely, and there were a couple where like it was just a 50-50 and the Arsenal player, of course, falls over. Ours is trying to genuinely get the ball and then they get the free kick. But they just, it was like they were sort of bereft of a plan other than, they're going to try and kick us. So when they kick us, let's fall over. Oh, hang on, they're not kicking us. We'll just have to pretend they're kicking us.
Just pretend it did, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and when that wasn't working, they really didn't have a lot else to offer. Like, I don't really, though I think, like we said, Chia was Chia. She had one incredible save. She had one very good save. What she did do...
There's a couple of squeaky bum moments for us.
Squeaky bum moments.
That's going to happen.
But what she does is she's just a brilliant marshal of her box. So whereas a ball over the top, no disrespect, but probably with like Baggers or maybe even Hannah, just because she's young and inexperienced, probably would have been on their line. And then it becomes, can the Arsenal player get it past our defender or whatever? Chia's already up there and cleared it. She's gone and cleared it. She's gone and dribbled it past them. She's knocked it round them and hoofed it clear or whatever, and I think that is what she stops so much danger before it becomes danger.
I said to Joe at one point that I think Chia has that extra nerve that the rest of us don't.
Yeah.
Because she's got the ball at her feet and she's got a player coming onto her and she'll take that extra time and we're all like, get rid of it. And she's like, no, I can have another touch. I'm all right. And then she clears it straight to our player. And you're just like, oh, you're so good. You're so good.
Well, I think from the stats, I mean, I don't know the exact figure, but I think I was reading today that she's sort of second in the Gold Glove race, basically behind Hannah Hampton, who didn't cover herself in glory today, to be honest with you. Chia can sympathise with those balls that go over your head that you sort of slightly misjudge. But you sort of think of where she has sort of cost us a couple of goals, and then you realise that if she's sort of keeping us, I think she's working out like a sort of net between 3 and 4 goals plus for us this season. That just shows if she hadn't made those mistakes, she probably would be the Gold Glove, almost latched onto it, so and you can put some of that down to communication, you can put some of that down to being in a new country on a new pitch and things like that. But if the stats are going to say she's cost us a couple, we had the penalty against West Ham early where, her bravery kind of, made her go for something she wasn't going to get. And then obviously the second West Ham game, whatever sort of happened there happened. It's just a kind of a couple of freak incidents, really. But that means that she's been so good the rest of the season that she's almost sort of saving us like half a goal every game.
I think
like
if she's not making those mistakes, then she's not doing the other stuff.
No.
So okay, I didn't make those mistakes, so we didn't concede that goal against West Ham or that penalty against West Ham. But at the same time, we let that in because the striker got to the ball first.
Line.
I mean, So it's well, I mean, we've always said, haven't we, that she'll give you the occasional heart attack, but otherwise it's just fun.
I was going to say it's just bloody fun to watch, isn't it? It's just you can't help but like it's almost like. She'll come out and whip it off someone and clear it. And you just, I don't know what it is about her, but you just can't help but sort of almost like, beam with like pride of like, you tried to get one over on Chia and she didn't let you.
I was going to say, actually, I mean, I can't really pick individuals out particularly,
hard,
but I think,
I
think the defence as a unit You know, again, you know, you can tell Caitlin's back in the squad because you can hear oh constantly. But basically, I mean, Stina flagged Stenius. You know, basically they were constantly catching her offside, and I think they got Leslie Russo at least once as well. I mean, obviously they at the end they were just throwing bodies in front of it, but you know, for 85 minutes. It was so composed. It was, you know, everybody was, you know, there wasn't a time where Arsenal were breaking our lines regularly. They got a couple of crosses in. I think Smila Homburg had quite a good one, but yeah, they were just in such control of the Arsenal forwards. And then, you know, as you know, people were saying, they took their forwards off and put some more forwards on. You know, they took off like Mornham, Mead, and Blackstenius and brought on Russo Smith and Kelly and Thornton. That's it. Took Kelly off and for Kelly.
They basically put on all their big guns
and
to try and get something back.
They were still.
They had to.
They still couldn't get over the top of our defence. I mean, there was one time, you know, there was a break. I think we must have had a corner or something like that. But there was a break on, and it was almost 3-on-3. You know, with the Arsenal forwards coming out of defence, and then suddenly they're passing it backwards. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. I thought they were going to get one back then. But then, and I think the midfield as well. You know, again, like Maisie, Yeli Chankovic, Fran, Mo Wallace-Lagers, and Charlie sort of backwards and forwards into it. And out. Again, it's that sort of fluid back 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, depending on the situation. I love that. But they neutralised. You know, Mariona Caldente. You almost didn't. I mean, she had an okayish shot in the first half, but otherwise, you almost didn't know she was at the field. Kim Little as well, and you know, just these sort of, you know, these great famous names that weren't getting a look in. So there were great things that a lot of them did. You know, again, that pass from Maisie, and there's a lovely back heel from Maisie, sort of in the second half as well to Fran, that sort of stuff. But as units, they were so good. And then, you know, obviously the front 2, 3, 4, whatever. You know, I mean, again, it wasn't Kiko's best game that first half. I think that was their plan. Was they were like, Kiko scores their goals, so if we can deal with Kiko. But once Carla came on, they couldn't cope with this. You know, she's never still. And then everybody else is kind of, she's this sort of the electron, as it were. And then the other bits of the sort of atom or whatever. I'm losing this metaphor. But she's all over the place, and everybody else is kind of moving around her and working off her and things. It was, you know, so the defence, the midfield, the attack, just as units were just so good. Yeah,
you could really tell with Carla that they were starting to get panicked in defence, which is exactly what she was there to do. Was to make them make a mistake, make them clear it out accidentally for a corner, or
they passed it to Fran at one point, didn't they? And you know, Fran had to just take a shot, but
I mean, there was one anyway. There was the one, I think, again, the one Carla crossed it where Fran couldn't quite get her toe to the ball. That was basically, they just swarmed around Kim Little. And just won it off her in her own 18-yard box, and then Carla gets the byline, pulls it back, and it's almost 3-0. So just I think it's obviously I've got my little Carla Camacho fan club flag, but she was again just part of this unit, and again a great goalkeeper, a great defence, a great midfield, a great attack, and a great team. It's just
it's
11 players of the match or 15 players of the match.
To talk about them like that, isn't it? I must admit, I actually thought, Claire, you said about kind of Maisie having probably one of her best games in an Albion shirt. I actually thought the same with Charlie. I don't know whether her being away with Australia for a little bit has kind of given her a little bit more assurance. But there've been the odd game where I'm thinking West Ham away, maybe a couple at the Broadfield, where she's looked a little bit maybe sort of like uncertain of what she should do or where she should be, or she's got caught out of position once or twice. Generally speaking, to no result, but once or twice, we have had given up chances and the odd goal or so. This one, she just, every place it was that she was supposed to be, she was there. And every time she got the ball, she was working hard with the midfielders and her fellow defenders to develop the ball out of the back without just hoofing it clear or whatever. But occasionally she did have to hoof it clear, and when she did, that's what she did. So I don't know whether it's just coincidence that, you know, she suddenly had like this incredible game, because she's had very good games before. But I don't know whether, you know, it could just be the element of having been away and spent time in Australia and kind of playing in internationals and stuff like that has kind of made her feel like a little bit more assured.
Come back a bit taller.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly
maybe
that.
I've always thought she sometimes can look a little bit lacking in confidence when she's part of the back three.
Yeah.
But when you put her on that white right wing and she is part of the back five, but a marauding going forward five, then I think she comes into her own, because I think she is a player that can run up and down that line and she can get back if she needs to. But we've got the three there already to sort of cover if she can't.
Yeah.
And, you know, when she's a centre back going forward, she'll often get halfway and then turn and come back.
Yeah.
When she's on the right side, she keeps going. And she gets the ball across, or she passes it to someone in the midfield who gets the ball across. And we just seem a much more attacking team when we have that five at the back kind of. It's almost like a semicircle, isn't it? Of like, they're there to come back and defend if they have to, but mostly they're there to support the midfield and the attacking players. And I think those positions, same with Mo. I think Mo on the other side works better when she's in that slightly more forward role, rather than being a left-sided centre-back player or even a left-sided just midfield, or, you know, tucked in. She's better when she can go up and down. And, you know, I think that it almost feels like sometimes we got an extra player on the pitch when we play that. Because they don't know what to do with that extra player, because for that, you know, they're like, oh, shouldn't she be defending? Oh no, she's down here to attacking us. And, you know, and I just think, Charlie was great. It just seemed like from the first minute and Chenkers hits that shot, it was like a shot across the a warning shot across the bow, wasn't it? To say, like, remember us? We put 4 past you last year. And from that minute on, like you say, within 3 minutes, we had 3 shots on goal. I think we put the shit up them. And they got a little bit worried, and we took confidence from it and went, should we keep doing that? Do you know what I mean? That seemed more fun. And the more that happened, the more, you know, it was just brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe being away with the Tillies has also taught Charlie how to play against Caitlin Ford as well.
Maybe.
Yeah. Obviously, she didn't come on till sort of, I don't know, with maybe like 20 minutes to go. But
it was about half an hour to go.
Half an hour, maybe, yeah. But I mean, they put on all their big guns, and admittedly, they had probably a couple more chances towards the end. But I think that was just purely because obviously we're 2-0 up, and we're thinking, you know, we're so close to the end here, we just need to not give a goal away. So we're going to get pinned back. But for the rest of the game, we didn't allow ourselves to be pinned back, and that was what, you know, kept them away from our goal for the most part. But I absolutely agree with you about, you know, Charlie and Mo. I think where they've looked a little bit more exposed is when a ball goes in behind them and they effectively have no cover because the 2 centre backs are having to cover the centre. So the, you know, we saw it against West Ham a couple of times, and we saw it against Chelsea. You know, if you don't have someone to come out and cover, then it's 1-on-1 essentially. And obviously, you know, teams like Chelsea, Arsenal have got the players that are going to be able to, you know, win some of those battles. Maybe not every single one every single time, but even if they win 50% of them, there's a ball coming into the box from those 50%, and so on and so forth. But when the ball, you know, to be honest with you, I didn't really. They got a couple of balls down the side. I think primarily more behind Mo than Charlie. But the thing is, when you've got 3 at the back, that was just a case of if they get in behind Mo, then Manu's there. She's on the left of the centre back.
The 3 at the centre back just all went to the left and went, no, not coming in this way. And then it came the other one. They all went right and said no.
Exactly. So if Manu comes out then to cover where Marissa's high, you've still got 2 centre backs. So no one's any the worse off really. And obviously, you know, on Charlie's side, like I said, she had a fantastic game, and they didn't really get any balls down her side. But even if they had, they would have met Moeka. So, you know, who I think as everyone has kind of realised throughout this season is just one of those kind of Rolls Royce players where, like, you know, they just purr the whole time. Like, you know, she'll like misplace a pass like once a game, and I'll think, oh, Moeka. And then I think, well, hang on a minute, everyone else has given the ball away 3 or 4 times. But Moeka, I'm like, come on, 100% passes, Moeka, come on. 100% headers to other players, please, you know. So it's almost like we've got like such a high amount of respect to her that it's like whenever she makes a slight mistake, I'm like, oh, come on.
You're better than this.
But yeah, but again, just like, you know, unassuming, but cracks on with her job, incredibly difficult to get the ball past, very good anticipation of where the ball's going to go, what the opposition are going to try and do. You know, Caitlin, I think, is that kind of old style centre back, which I think is easier to play in a 3.
I fully expect one day to see Caitlin coming off with like a Terry Butcher bandage around her head.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like bleeding, like just like come on up.
Yeah,
still going
in a 3, especially where your other 2 fellow sort of centre backs are a bit shorter in stature, but probably a bit quicker. You all sort of have to work together to cover every eventuality almost. So it's like Caitlin isn't going to push too high because she knows that she hasn't necessarily got the recovery pace. But then the other 2 are kind of the players who are able to cover more. Yeah. You know, cover across for Charlie, cover across for Marissa, because they've maybe got a little bit more stamina there. But if a ball comes in, Caitlin's going to get her head on it. Come hell or high water, she's going to get something to it. You know, whereas the other 2 have got a little bit more to, you know, further to go or whatever. So I think in a 3, they complement each other really well. And we spoke at the beginning of the season about almost having like you know, the twin towers, you know, 2 tall centre backs with a smaller centre back in the middle, which probably would have been Moeka. But actually, it's working really well having 2. They're not small. They're probably average centre backs in the women's game. Yeah. But having 2 sort of regular size centre backs either side, and then having, you know, Caitlin in the middle to just drive everything and just do the basics and just get her body in the way of things and get her head on things. And, you know, I mean, you know, we don't often talk about the men's game, but obviously as an Albion fan, she very much reminds me of like a Lewis Dunk. Like if she comes up against someone really technical, skillful, fast, one-on-one, they're probably going to have the better of her. But if it is just your old school style crosses into the box, blocking balls, head in the way, you know, like jumping up for a 90-10 and trying to get that 10% chance of getting on the ball and all that sort of thing. That's what Caitlin is. And I think you need a player like that. You know, and we almost do miss it when she isn't on the field. You know, it's a different defense when she's not on the field. So yeah, fantastic.
And speaking of her getting her head to crosses,
yes, yeah, we should speak a little bit more about the second goal. Yeah, take it away, Ben.
Well, I mean, it's actually I can't remember how we get the corner. I'm going to credit Carla for marauding and making a nuisance of herself. I think, but we basically we get a corner, and this is funny because this is literally 4 or 5 minutes after they changed their forward line, which was weird. I think I don't want to accuse Beth Mead of sort of rolling around the floor play acting, because, as I always say, if you're not in love with Beth Mead, there's something wrong with you. But she was making a meal of something because there was. I mean, it's really difficult to see how big the contact was between her and Manu had another coming together, and she goes down like, you know, if it's almost like she's broken her leg or something like that.
Yeah,
but the contact with Manu,
she was going off.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing.
I'll have a little rest so you can go and all talk to the coach.
Yeah, there seemed to be some sort of injury timeout thing, and they brought the stretcher on, and then she walked off. So again, I don't want to accuse her of making a meal of it, but maybe a little bit. But anyway, they'd literally just changed their forward line, so you're thinking, you know, this is now we're in trouble. They've taken the sort of the B+ team off and put the A team on. And then we score. But yeah, we get this corner, and it's, you know, having someone that can put the ball, consistently in the right place. There's, I forget who else was there. I think it was Charlie and somebody, actually can't remember who, but Charlie and Caitlin and somebody else are standing there sort of quite near the penalty spot, maybe a yard or so behind the penalty spot, and she just peels off, sort of circles round, and I think I said it was Leslie Russo earlier, but it was actually Stina Blackstenius was, I think, in charge of following her, because like Stina's probably the tallest player that Arsenal have got, and Charlie just gets in her way. She doesn't even sort of grab her. She's just standing in her way, and I think she just gives up on it. And then Leo Codina, which I think everybody's blaming Leo Codina for the goal, but I don't really. He's sort of standing on the post, and I think she suddenly sees Caitlin running into space and tries to go out to challenge. But by that time, Franz put the ball on a sixpence, and Caitlin just meets it. And it's sort of, again, it's not quite a bullet header because it loops over the top of poor old Daphne, and just top bins. And it's, that's what she does. She did it against West Ham earlier in the season, and it's like it's been a long wait for that second one. But wow, it was just, and that just shut them up, because they were like, right, here we go. We got Leslie on now. We're back in it. Come on, girls, let's get a 4 or 5 before the final whistle, and bosh, and they have another plan, and we punch them in the face again.
And that's what you have to do, isn't it? You have to not let them get hope. Not let them kind of gain a foothold, because that is when they start to claw themselves back into the game, and it came at exactly the right time. It kind of reminded me a little bit, I don't know, Claire might have the same view as me or not, I'm not sure, but of the Everton goal, because again, we couldn't really see the ball. We could see Caitlin jump for the header and head the ball down, but because of where the food kiosk is, and they have like a wall in front of it, we couldn't actually see it go into the net. So it was very much like I think if you running away and hugging, because
you were on the back step, but if you was 2 steps down, you could see it. So I just about, with like a bit of a crane of a neck, I could see it, and I was.
For us, it was more like a Mexican wave. It was like, and then we were like, did it go in? It did.
It was just brilliant, and I think I showed you guys the picture yesterday of the Arsenal fans behind the goal, just like, and I just thought, good, I'm glad, because that space, when we bought our tickets, that was our space. That was where they wanted us to stand, was in that big long section behind the goal. And when I was one of the first ones in, and it was already filling up with Arsenal fans, and you're like, how have you got tickets for this away end? And I asked somebody, I said, is this not the away end? And they went, it's mixed. And I was like, I've never ever been to any football in my 52 years of life, for 40 odd years of watching football, where there's been a mixed away end. There's always an area that is just for away fans. And that was our area, and you stole it. So, but we were like, whatever. We went and plonked ourselves in that sort of smaller bit down the other end, which actually I think worked in our favour, because it pushed us all together. It meant that we were a block of absolute noise, and that noise travelled, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just. I think as much as I couldn't see the ball go in, I think in my heart of hearts I knew it had gone in, but there was part of me that just couldn't actually believe that this was happening.
Well,
So I was on a slight delay. I was sort of buffering for a few seconds while I worked out that it had actually gone in.
It had actually gone in,
yeah. But I think sometimes weirdly, like you were saying about having this sort of strange away situation, it's almost like then we go, right, stuff you, we're being louder then. We're going to get closer together. Absolutely. We're going to get louder. We're going to, right, few Arsenal fans in the block, you ain't going to want to be here in 10 minutes. Trust me.
Yeah.
Not
and
because
you
we're
can
horrible,
see from when you look back on the TV, you can see that block that was supposed to be ours was rammed with Arsenal fans. Absolutely rammed. So they were buying up tickets, and I don't care, they had to have got them from our ticket office at some point.
You would have thought so,
because it's an away end.
It's funny though, because they, again, they fill the Emirates, And obviously, this is outside London, but it's a train journey out of London. It's not it's not in the northeast or anything. The crowd was 2,600.
Yeah, it wasn't sold out.
Wasn't sold out.
Bournemouth takes 4.5. So they didn't need to sort of steal away allocated tickets or anything like that. So it's I don't know. It always confuses me about FA Cup games and stuff. It's like this is the quarter final of the FA Cup. It's not at the Emirates, but it's still like a nice day out if you like watching Arsenal. And obviously they were expecting to beat us. So why
it's
it was only half full?
Because it's Easter, a lot of people are away. But like you say, if you can fill up 30,000 at the Emirates, surely you can find 44,000 fans that are not going away for Easter.
It was
I
strange.
think it's just that thing of that. I think there are a lot of Arsenal fans, and I'm not going to tar them all with the same brush because I know a lot of genuine Arsenal fans, but there are some Arsenal fans who like going to the Emirates. And that's the main thing.
Yeah.
If you ask them to turn up to Boreham Wood in a sort of next to a play park, down a little gravel track with a tennis courts and stuff next to it, they're like, do you know what? I'll just catch the next one at the Emirates. I think if that's all the same to you, I'm sure we'll win anyway. So so I won't have to worry about it. I catch it on TV. And I'll see you next time. For a prosecco on the concourse. So yeah, I think there's definitely that element to it, but I think even with when they have had to play the odd league game or cup game or whatever, they do normally get more. I don't think they always sell it out now, but they do normally get more. I think it probably Easter Sunday. I think maybe a little bit of complacency as well of like, well, it's only Brighton, we'll beat them. Then we'll jump on the bandwagon when we play Chelsea or Man City or someone, and then it means something, sort of thing. Little old Brighton, not that bothered, they're a bit boring, not a glamour tie sort of thing. And it's like, well, maybe that's the way some of the players felt, and maybe that's why, they didn't play so well. Maybe they thought little old Brighton. And we turned up and flaming told them to O1 T1 D1. Anything else anyone wants to add on the Arsenal game? Anything you notice? Anything about the game? Anything about the crowd? Oh, I will add one little minor anecdote. Bless his heart. One of the biggest cheers that we had the whole time, and that's saying something because we were cheering a lot. One of the biggest ones was Charlie, our gingerhead. With
that was so funny.
You can't miss Charlie. Everyone who watches the podcast, I'm sure, will know Charlie from the away coaches and everything. He's the fellow with the scraper, although that's another story because he broke it because he scraped it too hard. Basically, he had to get his ticket. He'd probably correct me in the comments, but he had to get his ticket sort of late notice, and ended up only being able to secure one in an Arsenal area. So he basically had to go in through a specific place, got into the Arsenal stand, and then I assume said, "Can I go and stand over there with the Brighton fans?" To which he was told, "No, you may not." So then, we obviously spotted him. He's not hard to spot, quite a tall fella. So we started a few chants of, what are you doing over there, sort of thing, and et cetera, et cetera. And Charlie, I think, very tactically took his shirt off, so he quite clearly was in all Brighton colours in the Arsenal end. A bit like, look, I'm being a nuisance, aren't I? Just let me go and stand over there. So it was probably about maybe sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. Back and forth. You could see him chatting to a few people, some Brighton people coming over and checking in with him, and presume sort of seeing if he was okay and stuff. And he was explaining to the situation. Anyway, I think it was maybe only about 5 or 10 minutes before kickoff, but suddenly a group of stewards from the Arsenal sort of team that were there or whatever, obviously, said to him, come this way or whatever, and escorted him basically through the sort of players area around the corner of the pitch, to which, we went absolutely bananas. And like I said, it was one of the biggest cheers of the whole day, probably 4th or 5th on the list of biggest cheers of the whole day. Because Charlie got to come and stand with us, with the Brighton fans. And he had his little bag because he'd been away. Bless him. He'd come straight from, I guess, the airport to to attend the game. So they were sort of mumbling something to him about presumably having a bag and not bringing it in the stadium and stuff. And as far as I'm aware, he just told them, take it wherever the hell you want. Just let me stand with my friends in the Brighton area. So yeah, it was a lovely moment. It's very touching.
Good fun.
And I think that's the sort of thing it's just great camaraderie. It's a bit of banter. You know, Charlie, like I say, is known to all of us, and you know, he's our friend. And we wanted him to come and stand with us, and he wanted to come and stand with us too. So
yeah,
you know.
I think that's one of the things I love about our group of fans. You know, like we're such a diverse little group of people that none of us knew each other before a season ago, and you know, we all get there and we all have a laugh and we all take the mickey out of each other and we have a giggle. But when it comes down to it, we're there to support our team, and we really get behind them. But it's always those little moments. Like we were having a bit of a joke, you know, with Sylvie the seagull and things. It just
Sylvie was on everything yesterday.
Yeah, it's just so much humour about it. You know, that people were like, "Does anyone recognise you out your costume?" And you know, and then other people.
Oh no, well, she was at the Rockwater thing, and nobody did.
Exactly. So, you know, it's just those little things, isn't it? You get these, you know, these little moments with your fans, and we've got some quirky ones, we've got some fun ones, and it is just, it's brilliant fun. And I don't know why everyone doesn't want to do it. It's such a good day out, you know. Just go, just get on a coach and go.
Yeah, I must admit, it was quite funny to see Joe, you know, our good friend Joe Davis, had wandered down the coach, I think probably to speak to the coach driver about something. And Sylvie sort of said, would you mind giving me a hand with putting my feet on? It was obviously quite unusual. But then it became sort of almost like a sort of Chuckle Brothers episode, you know, like a to me, to you. No, that's the wrong way round. I couldn't see any of it because Jo had her back to me, so it looked highly inappropriate for most of it. You know, she's sort of bumping into me, and the coach is rocking around, and it was tremendous fun, and good on her, because when she got back on the coach, it was absolutely sweltering. So I don't think she could wait to get out of it. But yeah, exactly like you say, you know, that's the sort of thing. And I must admit, I did sort of pander to the FOMO a little bit with my after show message on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, you know, kind of saying like, you know, you had to be here for this sort of thing, because you know, if that's a similar thing happens and we go up to Liverpool and we win and we get to the FA Cup final, you're going to want to say that you were at the FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
You know, so I know some people won't be able to make it, and that's the facts of life. Abby, I think you might be one of them. But it's like, if you can, try, you know, sort of thing. If you can't, there's, you know, everyone's got plans, summer holidays, there's all sorts of things going on. You know, no shame there at all. But if you can and you don't, then you should feel that FOMO, my friend, and you should get yourself along to one of these games. And, you know, because this is why we do it. You know, I was saying to Tim on the way out, this is why we do it. This is why we go to games and lose 1-0 against Spurs and, you know, lose 3-2 against West Ham, and we're getting it pelters from West Ham, right, left and centre. And you have to take it on the chin, right? But it's moments like that when you think, that's why I sat through all those tough moments. That's why I sat through all those games where I think, why did I pay for the coach to come to this game? You know, is to be there for times like this. So, you know, if anyone does get the chance and hasn't been on an away coach, or just travelled away, you know, if you'd rather not go on the coach, you know, and you can get there some other way, then just get yourselves along. There's sort of groups of people that get together now, but also there's a lot of people who go individually, and you know, they keep themselves to themselves, but we're all there for them. You know, if they need anything, if they wanted anything, if they, you know, if they have any problems or anything, we're all there. We're all there to help everyone, you know, and you know, so if anyone's got any qualms about that, then you can always get in touch with us. You can always flag us down on a coach or on your car or whatever you want to do. Come and have a chat with us, and hopefully you can be part of making those memories.
And also I think it's another thing to remember as well is how much the team really appreciate this. You know, they all came over yesterday, like every single member of that team, and you could see it on their faces how much they absolutely wanted that. And they wanted it not just for them, but for us as well. We were all in that together. And, you know, at the end of the game, Zoe came over and was like, thank you so much for being there and doing what you're doing, because it's that little thing that just pulls the players through and gets them over that line. And, you know, no matter what song we sing, no matter who starts it, just get on board. Remember why you're there. We're all there for the team. And we're all there for moments like yesterday.
Yeah,
just one more moment like yesterday, and we're all going to Wembley together. And that's awesome.
Yeah. I think what's noticeable as well that obviously Rosa was, I was going to say cup tied. Rosa was ineligible because she's on loan from Arsenal.
Yeah.
But she was there sitting with our players.
Absolutely. She celebrated with us as well.
Yeah, she was in the big old,
as well.
She was in the middle of that.
Yeah, I think, you know, she didn't have an easy season at Arsenal last year. I don't think she wasn't getting the minutes she wants. But I don't think she wasn't getting on with everybody. You know, they weren't her friends or whatever. But she really does seem to be like, you know, really part of the gang. And it, you know, from a personal level, it really would be great to keep hold of her because she, you know. So I think that was interesting because it would have been so easy just not to have gone there because if you're not in the squad, you don't have to go to away games. And again, I mean, Aisha Masako was there as well, which is again fantastic to see because
and they were encouraging her to get, because I think she was standing back thinking, well, it's not really my, and they were like, no, come.
Yeah,
everyone's in it. Everyone's part of it. Yeah,
you know, she's not. You know, she's played not very many minutes for us over the last couple of years, but she's very much part of the squad. And it was so good that I don't think Mariette Oe was there. I think she's the only other player that's currently injured. But you know, everybody else was there, and it was just fantastic to see sort of a really, really together-y squad.
Yeah.
And I suppose just the last thing on the game from me, I suppose, just when you look at the stats, again, it does look like we took our chances because, you know, they actually not too bad. I mean, 56.4% possession for Arsenal, 43.6% for us. So that's not massive domination. I mean, like, I think, you know, Man City, Birmingham this afternoon was like, you know, 75-25. We don't know. That was a sort of domination. But again, I mean, Arsenal 17 shots to our 10. That looks like they were, you know, they were on us and you know, and hemming us back and that kind of stuff. But they really weren't. And I think, a lot of that stuff was speculative. A lot of them came in that sort of mad last few minutes and stoppage time and stuff where they were just shooting and hitting the wall of players and shooting and hitting the wall of players. Because again, they only had 3 on target. So I think, you know, the stats, you know, again, I'm not always the best fan of stats, and it's particularly in this case, they really tell you nothing about the game because from the stats, it looks like Arsenal dominated and we got lucky. But I think it's really quite the opposite. I think, we didn't dominate them as such, but we were better than them.
Yeah.
And we were very, very well deserved winners. And, you know, I think, you know, we maybe read luck. I think there was a small incident right at the end where Maylis trod on Leslie Russo's heel, where, you know, Arsenal wanted a penalty. Although actually, funny enough, again, Ben Edwards, the commentator, said a lot of us, you know, people who've been in football a long time don't want to see penalties be given for that. And if VAR comes in, they will be, I think he said. So, you know, it was an accidental tread. Neither of them was anywhere near the ball, whatever. But, you know, maybe that was a bit lucky. Maybe another ref would have given that. But we were better than them, and we really, really deserved it. And I think, you know, that very often, you know, as we said at the beginning, giant killings are, you know, like Charlton at Broadfield in the League Cup. You get a lucky one and then you park the bus. We didn't. We outplayed them and we were better than them. And I'm, you know, just, you know, I've got massive FOMO that I wasn't there. That I've been to an FA Cup semi-final at Bournemouth before, and we got hammered, and it wasn't embarrassing. It was disappointing. But, you know, just to not to have been there is you know. So I'm going to do my best to get to Liverpool. But yeah, it was just, as you say, that's why we do it, isn't it? That's why we watch football. And I think if you're a fan of someone like Arsenal, and again, I don't want to tar all of them with the same brush.
No, of course.
They've got the glamour of the Lionesses. but they also win all the time. Chelsea win all the time. That's why, that's, you look around, the most kids these days, unless they're the sort of kid that lives in a town with a great football club like Brighton and Hove Albion, they're probably Man City fans, because Man City are the team that wins all the time. They get all the publicity, blah, 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 blah. And when you're a fan of a team that wins all the time, losing hurts. But when you're a fan of a team that loses a lot, maybe more than when you get a win like that, there's just nothing better. And so, it's, so proud of this team this year. We've thrown a lot of results. I'm getting all emotional. We've thrown a few points away here and there. We've made a few mistakes, and things have happened and whatever. But when things like that happen, you just couldn't love them anymore, could you?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put it better myself. That's being a football supporter, isn't it? And a supporter, like you say, not supporting a team because they're successful, but supporting them for some other reason. You're going to generally find that they're not going to win all the time, and you do have to manage your expectations and stuff. You can be optimistic while also acknowledging that we're not going to win the league more than likely. You never know. But more often than not, we're not. So when these things come along, they're all much sweeter. And much as I love the fact that the men's team have got to the Premier League and things like that, my memories, favorite memories of supporting the men were games where I thought we'd lost and we ended up winning. Because you have it's the agony to the ecstasy rather than just the continued success. And I think that's why in a lot of leagues, when a team comes up from, and it could well happen if a WSL2 team comes up this, obviously 2 are coming up, could be 3. You have to get very much used to going from a league where you've just won a lot to going into a league where you're probably going to lose a lot. It's just how many. So that can be quite jarring for fans. So you do have to have realistic expectations.
Exactly, because you have as well. If you're a fan of Arsenal, like your memories are, well, we went to Lisbon and won the European Cup and things like that. Our memories are we beat Arsenal 4-2 at Broadfield last season. Our memories are bloody hell. Do you remember when we got thrashed 8-0 by Spurs at home? Yeah. You don't want to see that again. Chelsea are like, oh yeah, well, we went over to Barcelona and we did this and we did, and it's just like, and we went to Arsenal at Boreham Wood and we've just knocked them out the FA Cup, and that's our big win, and we'll take it because those are the memories. These are the things we will look back on for now until we get to Lisbon. But that's a few years down the road.
One day we'll start with the FA Cup, then the league, then the Champions League.
Let's have it.
Seems very fair to me.
Let's have it.
So I think the next thing we'll go on to will be the draw, which happened earlier today, so Monday as we're talking. At the time, Man City hadn't won, but they did. So obviously only 4 names in the draw: Man City, Chelsea, us, and Liverpool. And we drew Liverpool, which I think is a big hooray. Slightly less hooray for the fact it's away, so it's obviously it's up in Liverpool. But I think really, out of all the possible permutations, of which there are not that many, to be brutally honest with you, when there's only 4 teams left, the only better draw we really could have got would have been Liverpool at home. So we got the second best draw I think we probably could have.
I think we'll all take it.
Yeah, and I think we should go up there with some real confidence. And I actually think in some ways it could play into our hands because Liverpool are at home. So the pressure, if anything, is going to be on them a little bit more. We're at home against the, kind of the one team that's left that you would want to face, sort of thing. And it's like, we're going, we got Liverpool, but we've got to go up there. We've got to show out. We've got to, we're going to have to put them to the sword. It's not going to be an easy game, sort of thing. So, I think we could, there's a way you can amongst the team say, look, this is a challenge for us. We're going into their home, their house. They're a form team at the moment. We haven't beaten them this season. Let's go do it now.
Yes.
turn a negative into a positive. Abby, what did you make of the draw, and what do you think our sort of chances are of overcoming Liverpool?
Well, I think we've got a good chance against Liverpool. I mean, at the time that the draw was happening, I was watching my other beloved team officially get relegated. And to your point of, that agony and ecstasy, we've at Eastbourne, we've had it the other way around. We had a lot of fans came in over the last 2 seasons who've only known winning and almost getting promotion. And this year, it's been, I think there's not very many wins and relegation, and it's really interesting to see how some of the fans have not been able to cope with that because it's not what they're used to for their 2 or 3 years watching the club. So it is, very interesting. But yeah, I was sat there and I was bitterly hoping for a home draw because, as many people will know, that's my wedding anniversary. And I could just about have swung it to have got a few hours to go to Broadfield. There is no way I'm going to get all day to go to Liverpool. So I'm going to have another weekend of FOMO. But
you want to stay married, essentially.
I do want to stay married. Yeah.
You're choosing marriage over the Albion.
Absolutely. But I think it's very, very similar to this. Liverpool, yes, they will want to win the FA Cup and they'll want to do well, but they also want to stay in the WSL.
Yeah.
And their position in the WSL is a lot less or a lot more tenuous than ours is.
Yeah.
We're fairly safe. Potentially mathematically, if Leicester suddenly, start remembering where the net is and all that sort of stuff, possibly we might be in trouble. But I think we are safe. But I think Liverpool are going to be struggling. So they will want to, really be concentrating on the league rather than looking at the cup. So I think it's a very similar situation to what we've had this time round. There's no pressure on us because, form-wise, particularly recent form, we're fairly even. Squad-wise, we're fairly even. It's their home. They should win. It's their fans. They should win. We're having to travel, blah, 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 all of that sort of stuff. And I think, again, there's no pressure on us. Because if we lose, well, it was an away game and we had to travel and, da-da-da-da-da-da. But if we win, then hooray, we won. So I think it's very, very similar. I really, really hope that we get something out of it. But I think we can. I think it is of all of the options, this is for me, the most winnable. Certainly. So Charlie, get your ticket booked now so you don't end up in the wrong place. Otherwise, because I remember when we went to Liverpool, we had some very excited small Liverpool supporter behind us whose only chant was, for the first half, Liverpool, very loudly in my ear. And then the second half, he swapped it up to, who are you? For 45 minutes. That was it. It was his entire repepoire.
I think we will probably have a much better away end this time. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. But it's very, very winnable.
We were sort of saying earlier that we hope and like to think that someone listens to the podcast from the club. So, if anyone has got Tony's ear and he fancies putting on a couple of coaches for us, free of charge to help with the numbers, that would be fantastic. But it would be nice because it's not often Brighton get to a semi-final of any competition. And it has been a big deal when the men have made a semi-final, and rightfully so. To be sort of although it's a cup competition, one of the best 4 teams in the competition is something is something remarkable. So it'd be nice if we could do something for this game, and I honestly think it would make a big difference if there was a couple of hundred of us there instead of 50 of us
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
I mean,
mean,
don't get me wrong, if it's the
50
right
of us
50
is going to make a
people,
noise, but if we
Yeah.
can get a couple of hundred, and I really think we could. I mean, we must have had a good 100 or so there yesterday,
I would have thought so.
you know, and Tony was at the game and he was very impressed apparently by the noise that we made. So if you can imagine that, Tone, doubled, maybe even tripled,
Yeah.
you get us there, we will make that noise. But I think for a Sunday afternoon, a lot of people will require a coach to get them there.
Mm.
And I think for the price that we've been paying for coaches recently, a lot of people, it does put them off. If you've got a couple of kids and you want to go to this special event, the semi-final, you want to get them there, it's a lot of money. So if you can somehow find a way of getting us a couple of freebie coaches, fill them up, we will fill them.
Yeah.
If they're free, we will fill them.
Yeah.
We'll have fans coming down from Glasgow for Caitlin. We'll have the fans that live up in and around the middle of the country. You know, there's a lot of fans in Birmingham and Manchester who I'm 100% sure will make their way there. So yeah, sod the pie and the pint. We don't need that. We need a coach.
Yeah.
We need a couple of coaches. Get us there. We'll bang those drums. We will sing our hearts out, and we will take those girls to Wembley.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a massive point. I just think I would, if we were playing Liverpool at the Broadfield and they filled that little terrace end down the end there or whatever, that would make me sit up and take notice. Whether I was a player or opposition fan or member of staff or whatever, I'd be like, my goodness, these people that's a long trip. And these people have come all that way and they're giving it hell for leather sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I just think that could be, you never know. You know, we talked before, Ben in particular and also Abby are interested in cycling. We've talked before about like marginal gains. Just a little bit of an intimidation thing of look how many people we've brought all the way up here.
I think we've already started that as well. I think that we are now, you know, take out the Arsenal supporters because that's just a phenomenon that's mental in the WSL. But you look at like Chelsea, Man City, Man United, what the amount of people they bring. A lot of their supporters are coming from more local, just people that want to watch England players. When, you know, I think we are probably the 4th best supported club for away games.
Yeah.
With how many we take to games now. We regularly have 70 to 100 people at an away game every single game now. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
For 1 year's growth. For 1 year of us pushing this, we've gone from like 5 at that Man City game last season to having well over 100 every single game. You know, it's brilliant.
Well, and even just Man City to Man City, we probably took 50 or 60 to Man City. So even just between trips away to Man City, we 10x the, you know, the amount of people that were going. So I mean, it is really incredible. It is growing, and these are the sorts of things where you can't guarantee that we're going to get this type of thing happening next year, year after, etc. So you have to get on these things now and use that to grow the fan base. While there's people who are going, oh, Brighton are in a semi-final. God, if they win, I might go to the final. You need to jump on that person and get them to engage with the women's game.
If you want to tickets to the final, you've got to have one at the semi-final. Get in there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like,
and I'd like to see as well. I'd like to see some of the players, whether it's from the club or from their own off their own backs. I want to see some of the players on social media saying, "Come and watch this game.
Yeah,
come and support us in the semi-final." You know, let's really ramp it up and get the word out there that we are in a semi-final of an FA Cup. And this doesn't happen very often. Let's support our team.
Absolutely. And it could be one of those situations, you know, the men, England men have never won the Euros, but the women have. Obviously World Cup bit different because you know, there was many years where women weren't allowed to play football. So, you know, we probably would have won a couple of them if we'd have been able to field a team legally. You know, it could be that it's the women who kind of bring home that first FA Cup and
why not?
Quite honestly, the first real major trophy for the club, you know, and then what a catalyst for the whole club for the men to kind of go, oh God, right, okay,
Yeah, pull our finger
right,
out.
put the marker down. We're gonna have to do something now, you know.
Yeah.
Like it just would make the whole club, bow up basically, and kind of feel, like we said with Charlie, just a little bit taller and a little bit, proud and stuff. So I think,
but also
we need to be all in on it
with the stadium coming up. This is, many people will know I had an ill-fated dalliance with a certain South London club that should remain nameless, but I followed them because they were the underdogs in an FA Cup semi-final. That was the pure reason why I started following that team for a few years, was because they were in an FA Cup semi-final, and in fact I think they might have even gone to a final. But it was a big game. They were the underdogs, and I fell in love with them briefly. And how many fans locally could suddenly sit up and go, oh, the women's team are quite good, let's go and follow them. So we really do need to be all in on this, and get people there and get every little advantage that we can get to win that game. And we turn it into a home game for us.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Having the noise there.
Well,
we
will already outshout any home fan, other than, like say, Arsenal. Their fans, if they really want to give it large, they're going to outsing us. But when we go to, we've been to Liverpool, we've been to Man United in the past, and 11 of us outsung them at Man United. So I just think, if we can get 100, 200 people, even more, why not go for as many as you can get for a semi-final? Just get them there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
get them there. And coaches is nothing in the big scheme of things. When when you're talking about football nowadays, it's just.
And
when you're talking about filling a stadium,
final, because at the end of the day, a final is a money spinner for a club. It's not going to be the money spinner that the men's final would be. Of course, we're not there yet. One day maybe, but it's still a money spinner, right? It's still on the same sort of like scale. Of it will earn the club money, it will earn the club publicity and stuff. So it sometimes, Tony, at the end of the day, one of the reasons why he is, quite widely known is because he used to play poker. He's played poker on TV and stuff. And that was kind of how he made some of his early money was playing poker. Now, obviously, you have to put something in. You have to, I don't know a lot about poker, but there's often a buy-in. Now, I would say in this situation, the buy-in is get us fans to that semi-final. Because if you play your cards right, we're in the final, you're going to get that. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? If we play it right and we make the final, you're going to make way more back than what you paid for on a couple of coaches. Way more back.
And I guarantee, it happens. We saw it with Crawley a few years ago when they got to a final for something. Regularly getting, 2,000-3,000 coming every game. Got to a final at Wembley, 15,000 turned up from Crawley. Everyone wanted to go and watch them. And I think, if we can get to Wembley, I think, someone just said in the chat there, 20,000 allocation. Only 50 of us might not sound so good, but I think we would get nearer 10,000. I think 10,000 people from Brighton would come out and go to watch a Brighton team at Wembley.
Yeah. I mean, a day at Wembley as a Brighton fan, I mean, why wouldn't you? It's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than, the men's FA Cup final tickets. It's going to probably be easier to get a ticket, and you're going to support your club. Okay, you might not be a die-hard supporter of the women's team like we are, but it's still your club. It's still your colours. It's still your badge at Wembley to win a piece of silverware. I think it will bring a lot of people out of the woodwork. And I hope the only thing I would say is I hope they do make some provisions for season ticket holders, for people who do travel away and stuff. And I don't mean in necessarily that they should get any particular special treatment. More of the fact that, as people in the comments are kind of suggesting, that we should be sort of like kept together
Yeah.
You know, we don't want a free for all where 10,000 people all try to get tickets at the same time.
Yeah, it would
And
kind of
I'm
be
in
nice.
row
if
F
we
and
got,
Claire's
like,
in row B and Abby's
Yeah.
in G and Ben's
it'd be
in
nice
Z,
if we
and,
got
you know.
maybe 3 or 4 days where we got first dibs,
Yes,
and
exactly.
we could
can
make
say,
sure that
yes,
we are all together so that we can get all that singing and chanting
Yeah.
going. Because I think the last thing any of us want is to be there and be all separated and different
Yeah.
places, and then the atmosphere becomes more like a men's game where
Yeah.
it's just the fans from the men's game have turned up because it's all a trip to Wembley, and then it all gets a bit shitty songs going back and forth. We don't want none of
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So it'll
Yeah.
be nice if we can all keep together and we know our songs and we can get people around us.
Yeah,
We can do
people
some
around
song
us will
sheets and
start to
things. We can get
join.
that out
Yeah.
again, It'll
Yeah,
be good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what our exact allocation would be, because I know obviously with the FA Cup for the women, they do sell a lot of the tickets ahead of time.
Yeah, I think a lot of
for
people have
the
already got them,
sides of
didn't
the
they?
pitch.
Yeah.
And then basically the home and away, technically one team is designated home and away, but the ends of the pitches are the actual team sort of thing. But I've been to the last 2 FA Cups and I've seen the atmosphere in those those ends where the team fans are. It's absolutely electric. I mean, it's lovely to watch as a neutral in quite a calm environment and kind of take in the football and take in the day and the stadium and stuff. But my goodness, if I was an Albion fan, there's no way I'd be sitting in the middle. I want to be down with the other Albion fans, commiserating or celebrating together because that's where you should be. So
we'll have to have an organised sort of discussion, won't we, between us all as to where's the best block.
Yeah.
And then if we get there and it opens up, we just all get in that block.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, like you say, one way to do that would be to kind of at least make it season ticket holders for a period of time. It doesn't even need to be a long period of time, right? As long as we know, this is the key. As long as we know where to be at what time in advance,
we can do it.
We will be there.
Yeah,
but
we're going to get through Liverpool first,
and then we find out later. That's when we have problems.
Yeah, we've got to get Liverpool out of the way first. And
we have got to get Liverpool out of the way first. But,
I was going to say we're sort of kind of getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, Ben,
it's the team that we haven't managed to beat since about 2022.
Yeah, talk us through, Ben, a little bit about like some of the challenges because I mean, as far as I'm sure I saw a thing that said we haven't beaten them since 2022, and we've drawn with them twice this season.
We're due to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen soon.
Of course.
I think, obviously, when we played them at Broadfield, we I came away from that game feeling quite disappointed because nothing just seemed to work properly. Obviously, I mean, we were Kiko-less, and we were also Moeka-less,
and Charlie-less.
And Charlie-less as well. So there's a couple of the key players from this weekend were missing. And I think, and whether she was on punishment, I don't know. We didn't have Carla doing her thing like she did against Arsenal. So I think, it's a different proposition. I think they were missing a Japanese player or two, weren't they, as well?
Yeah.
But
Nagano, I think, and Shimizu, maybe.
We were unlucky, I think, when we went up there. I think we did have the better chances when we went to St Helens. Hope you brought enough for everybody. I can hear you rustling. I think we were a bit unlucky at St Helens. We did have better chances than them, and I think they had. I mean, it was almost like one quality chance, and they put it away, and then we got a lot of quality chances. And
it was horrible weather as well that day.
Yeah. And obviously, and we've also talked about the Broadfield pitch was squishy, wasn't it? For the game last month. So I mean, it's got to come soon. I don't want to start thinking about Wembley because I've been hurt before, both with this team and with the men's team, and stuff. So I think it's going to be a great occasion. As you said, I mean, if the club really gets behind it and gets people up there, it's going to be a great occasion. I think our team does respond to the support we give them. That's the thing. They've said a lot, haven't they? They love playing at Broadfield, not because it's at Crawley or because it's red or because the pitch is any good,
because
but because of the atmosphere we generate there and the support they get and the cauldron that we create. And obviously St Helens, normally Liverpool get 2,500.
Very quiet though, very quiet.
Yeah, whether they'll get any more than that, I don't know. Whether because you would have thought more Arsenal fans would have been there this weekend, but so I don't know whether, but it will be one side of a large stadium, like an Amex game would be, or like a so it's not going to be the atmospheric cauldron, but we have to do our best to create that, and I think we are going to beat them one of these days. We are better than them. Player for player, team for team. If the team plays as a team like they did on Sunday at Arsenal, then we could beat anybody. But I don't want to start thinking about where I'm going to sit and what sort of prawn sandwich I'm going to order at Wembley yet, because I really don't want to jinx anything or whatever. I just want to I want to get them up to Liverpool. It's tough because we've got Arsenal midweek before it as well.
Yeah, that is probably the one big asterisk over.
I think they're obviously they're going to want to win that game because obviously they I think mathematically they can still win the WSL, but that does depend on Man City dropping a few points, which you can't really see them doing much. Although they might against us because we got them before them as well. But I think that's going to be a tough game against Arsenal. But I think he probably rest some players because as you said,
rest all our players, and then we can say, well, you only beat our second team.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. There's priorities, isn't there? You look at that and think, well, we don't want to lose at home to Arsenal, but at the same time, we want to win away at Liverpool. So it's a tough run. We got Man U away the weekend before as well, so the team's going to be travelling and then playing two of the top.
It's probably the fatigue that worries me more than the actual game against Arsenal. Is the fact that we'll have come back presumably on Monday from that game, and then we're probably only going to be able to train maybe 1 or 2 sessions before we play Arsenal. Yeah. And then they're probably going to, depending on how many first teamers we play, they may need the day off after that. So then they're only going to get 1 or 2 sessions again before Liverpool. But again, it's difficult because it could play into if we're in a good rhythm, if we're playing well, it could end up playing into our hands. But you just don't know, do you? You just don't know ahead of time.
I just hate that we have this bloody international break because it's we're 2 games on the trot now where we've got the Gales, we've got the game, and you just really want to be playing Man City now, don't you? And just really go straight into it, playing like we are. See if you can get something out of it. And build that confidence from that, because you get something against Man City and then you play Arsenal, and even if you lose, but you only lose by 1 goal, you go into that that cup semi-final then really full of yourself and kind of like, let's have it. And I don't know.
So I think it's not going to be easy, but I think it is eminently doable, and I think we just got to get behind them and do everything we can. Play our part.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just checking Liverpool's fixtures. I didn't think they've got one midweek.
I'm just reading Charlie's comments here. Charlie, we do not want to get beaten by the biggest scoreline ever. We're building confidence here. Confidence that would be wiped out if we got beaten by 10-0 a game before the Liverpool game. Like, that's not going to help.
I don't even know if that's the worst scoreline.
Well, whatever the score, I don't know what the score would be. The worst score. My worst score is I've seen us lose 8-0. I don't want to see us lose anymore. No. We need to. Every game now is a training session.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's a training session for a Liverpool semi-final. Let's use it as that. Make sure if we're gonna lose, we only lose by 1 again. Keep it going. Keep trying. Keep stealing points here and there. Keep surprising these teams. Because every little thing we win, even if it's not the 3 points, but every little thing we win builds our confidence, and that's what it's all about.
But with that Arsenal game, we've got enough on our bench in most areas to be able to give people a bit of a rest.
Absolutely.
We have got Baggers, who is a very, very capable goalkeeper and had the game of her life against Arsenal at home last year
Absolutely.
So let her have another go.
Absolutely.
We've got options for the defence. We've got options in midfield. Let's start Ollie. Let's start Fuka. Let's see how they play from the off. So we definitely can rotate people and put out not necessarily a weakened team, but we can rest some of our key players ahead of the Arsenal game. Ahead of the Liverpool game, and still put out a good team. Where it's going to be tight is we're not going to have Rosa, so she will automatically be ready for Liverpool because she can't play against Arsenal. But that means that we are going to have to play Maddie, Kiko, Carla, Bex, combination thereof. But again, let's give Bex a start. And let her have a go, because she against Chelsea, I thought she was very impressive, and there were definite moments there. So let's give her the start at that point. So we have got enough quality throughout the squad. We can't give everybody the night off, but we definitely can put out a very strong team to pin them to a draw or something, and then push forward. Because
the one thing going for us, with the Arsenal game is obviously they will be playing away at Lyon on the weekend before.
Yeah.
So they've got travel in their legs. They're gonna get a proper spanking from Lyon. So nobody's got an easy run into the end of the season, really. I don't think.
It was interesting on the commentary that I was listening to. I think you were listening to the same one, Ben. They were talking not necessarily about the physical fatigue of the matches, but the mental fatigue, which is where rotating would really come in. And we've always said that what we need in our squad is a lot more WSL experience. So let's give some of our younger fringe players some of that WSL experience that in a game that, let's face it, for us, really doesn't matter. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to lose by the biggest score ever and all that sort of stuff. But equally, I think if we can give some of our players a lot of experience, give them some match time at the same time as resting key players ahead of what is probably one of the biggest games in the women's team history, I would be okay with that. But we can talk about that in a future podcast. It's weeks away.
We can indeed. Yes, so we think at the moment the game will likely be on the Sunday, primarily because I think both men's teams are at home on the Saturday, which is obviously more important for Liverpool because it's played in Liverpool, but also it's always a bit of a logistical thing with Brighton staff and stuff being responsible often for men's and women's teams if they're playing at the same time. So it would lead me towards it being a Sunday. And also I think the BBC have already put it as a Sunday, which seems they don't normally do that unless they know that it's going to be on a Sunday.
Probably going to be on the TV. I already had it in my calendar on my phone as being that weekend of the 10th. So
it definitely will be that weekend.
It's just whether
it looks like it probably will be the Sunday. So that may present a few issues for some people traveling, depending on the kickoff time because of traveling back. It shouldn't be too bad. It shouldn't be too bad in theory.
It's saying 2:00 at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and if that's the case, then you hope to be back by maybe sort of between 10 and 11. So it should be doable. If you can sort of keep the kids, going and get them straight to bed when you get in and tell them not to tell the teacher.
Everyone has a clip on the coach. It's always nice and quiet.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that would be good. But yeah, I think probably more likely again also because of us playing on the Wednesday. Normally it'd be if you play on the Saturday, so the men's teams. If you play on the Tuesday in the Champions League, you will sometimes play the Saturday. Normally speaking, you don't play Wednesday and Saturday if they can at all avoid it because it's just so close together. So hopefully, all signs point to the Sunday, but we'll wait for, I guess, official confirmation from probably the FA's account or the women's FA Cup account, something like that. Before saying definitively, but it's only just over a month away, so they're going to want to get tickets up on sale. They're going to want to get a coach sorted out, and that all requires obviously knowing when it's going to happen. So I would anticipate some sort of definitive news on that sooner rather than later. Obviously, in terms of our next game, we won't preview that because it's basically 3 weeks away. You know, exactly like you said, Claire, these international breaks, you know, they're not welcome at the best of times, but especially not when you've only been back for like 2 games.
It's
and
ridiculous.
Then since the last
It really
one.
is.
It's crazy. Whoever scheduled them this close together, I mean, goodness me.
Well, I mean, it's only the top 4, let's face it, who should just stop playing. The rest of us could carry on.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I mean, but
I don't know. We've got
most
a few
of our players,
haven't we? But
we've got a hell of a lot of players who are going to be away.
I think it's that third. I can understand them being off for 2 weeks and therefore the middle weekend. It's that it seems to have another week tacked on at the end, and I always used to think, that's for the cup, but it's not, because we're still in the cup and we haven't got a fixture then. So I don't know why it has to span 3 weeks and 2 weekends.
Well, I mean, if we weren't in the cup, then it would have been 4 weeks.
4, exactly. Which is insane, isn't it? Really, you know, it's crazy. There are a lot of teams who will have had 4 weeks off. You know,
29th of March to the 25th of April is our 2 WSL games.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that we were lucky because we had a cup game on the 4th.
Exactly. Very, very strange. I would suspect that we may take a week off either next Monday or the Monday after, but obviously we'll be back the week prior to that game so we can preview that, and obviously we can, you know, we'll do some other bits and bobs. There's always something to talk about. If not, we just make something up and talk about that. That's how the papers work. You know. But obviously, before we go, I will need to just find this little presentation.
Oh, actually, before we play that...
okay.
Just reminded me of the Claire Says 4-0 jingle. I was indicating it at the beginning of the pod. I said 2-0.
You did say 2-0. You did say 2-0. Well done. Well done. I can't even remember what I said we win on penalties.
You said penalties or something.
Yeah.
I mean, we all said we'd win, so I think, you know, props to us.
We were all very
catch up on one time or another.
Abby thought we conceded, though. I mean, do me a favour.
How wrong was she?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said it was going to be 0-0 though, so I can't remember. I always write these things down at the time,
and then lose a bit of paper
later on. Yeah, I've got a big notebook full of notes. But here we go. No, I have got them. So Abby said 2-1, Claire 1-0, Ben 1-0. Yeah, see, I had us conceding as well. I said 1-all. So, you know.
Shocking.
Colour me naughty for that one.
Yeah.
Right, now, listen here, Ben. I was told by many people on the coach this is the highlight of their podcast. Right, so here it goes.
Ben on the ball, Ben on the mic, talking women's football every day, every night, from the first big tackle to the last late goal. Ben's got the game, Ben's got the soul.
Honestly, no less than 4 people told me that they love.
They haven't even heard ours yet.
We've doubled
they can't even get it out of their head. I know. I still need to sort that out. It's been so hectic this week.
We've got no reason to have mine. So,
but yeah, we haven't got a prediction for Claire's one, and I already asked Abby an awkward question. So
yes.
Yeah, you should have played it.
About the goals that we scored.
Yeah.
What?
What? I didn't see them. What goals? What goals?
We win.
Football? Who's watching football?
No one
there were
watches
Easter eggs
football.
involved, though, so we have to let you off a little bit. Yes, Ben.
Right.
I'm presuming, obviously, a sort of sporadic calendar for the domestic leagues, but
Fairly, yeah. So I will start in England. Evie Milner at Portsmouth, they didn't play because of I think other teams were catching up, but I think they were just using the cup weekends to sort of not have everybody playing, and because obviously Portsmouth have got ahead of themselves and played more games than everybody else. Unfortunately, though, Durham got a point at Bristol City, which means they're now 2 points ahead of Pompey. But Ipswich were beaten 1-0 at Palace, which means Ipswich, they're still on 14 points, the same as Portsmouth, but they're now one goal closer on goal difference. So there's only one goal in it now. So I think that was it. I mean, we're not Portsmouth fans, but if we're going to lend our players to them and they're going to play them, then that's nice. That's good. And it's Evie's getting lots of minutes there when they play. Olivia Johnson, Forrest played as well, but she wasn't in the squad. I don't know what's happening with her. Libby Bance was on the bench for their win over Sunderland, which put Birmingham top, which would be really lovely if, obviously great club in the WSL anyway, but for Amy Merricks to win the WSL 2 would be a real feather in her cap. And, obviously we have great fond memories of Amy Merricks. We'd love to see her back up. But wasn't in the squad for the FA Cup game where they did pretty well to only get beaten 1-0 by Man City, but she wasn't in the squad for that. So again, I don't know. Libby, let us know. And I think possibly even as well, Amy might have been protecting some of the players because obviously their run-in is I think they're not quite assured promotion.
They're
but they want to come up as
guaranteed
champions.
at least a playoff spot, I read.
Yeah, but they want to come up as champions, and so I think there were a lot of, Leadhammer was on the bench, Sari was on the bench, although I think she might be coming back from a knock. So anyway, we'd love to see our old girls coming up again. But yeah, so I mean, Libby, let us know because it's been a strange sort of second half of the season. So that was England, not much to report, but we tiptoed north of the border, and young Jessica Pegram was back in the Rangers squad, back in the Rangers side. Played 90 minutes twice this week. They beat Partick Thistle 1-0, and then this afternoon, as recording, they were away at Celtic, although it's kind of weird away home. They sort of seem to share grounds at Heriot-Watt University. On the plastic pitch, they beat Celtic 3-0, hat-trick from Wilco, and they're now up to second because Glasgow City are slipping up at the end of this thing. So yeah, again, she's I don't know whether she picked up a knock or something and they were looking after her, but she's back in there. She's a rock in the centre of their defence, almost the sort of Rangers equivalent of Caitlin Hayes. And then yes, across the North Sea, big news for Hammarby. Melina Lurk got a cleano when they hosted Sparta Prague in the second leg of their Europa Cup semi-final. So they won that 5-2 on aggregate. So they have got a final against Häcken to look forward to.
Incredible.
And then again this afternoon, possibly yesterday. Anyway, this weekend, they won away at, I tried to say this one before, I can't read my handwriting. Bromma, I've given up. They beat them 3-0, clean sheet. She did make one very good save, actually, because often in those games she doesn't have a lot to do. And they're now top of the Swedish League after 2 games. Their next game will be this final, the Europa Cup final against Häcken. It's 2-legged, which is interesting. So, I was expecting that. There'll probably be an Italian team and like a Welsh team or something. So
Those 2 next door neighbours.
So they got one game in Stockholm, and the other one, is it Malmo Häcken? No, they're not in Malmo. Where are they? They're Gothenburg, aren't they? I think, yeah. So anyway, so that's on the 24th of April and the 1st of May. No, 25th of April, sorry. So yeah, 2-legged final. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully Melina's gonna get herself some silverware, which would be cool. And staying in Sweden, Olivia Garcia was on the bench as they played. AIK played Rosengard, so silly AIK manager. But she came on sometime in the second half and scored the winner in stoppage time. And it's actually, if you go onto the AIK, it's AIK Football Dum or something like that. Dum, as in dames, women. They on their Instagram account, and actually she shared it herself. There's her goal. They sort of stole the ball off a Rosengard defender on the halfway line, and she basically ran into the box and passed it into the far corner of the net. So that was good. And they're up to second. So that's quite good. We got our 2 girls in Sweden are first and second in the league. So yeah, all quiet in England, but everybody else is doing very well.
Yeah, and there was an interesting clip, wasn't there, Ben? I'm not quite sure what it was on, but it's some fans will probably know, some might not, that Olivia Garcia is a talented opera singer.
Yeah.
There was some footage of her sort of, I guess someone kind of propositioned her and said, do a bit of opera
give us some
for us.
Go on.
Yeah. That's obviously on Instagram, TikTok, that sort of thing. So go and look that up because it's very, very impressive. Although I don't feel it would be appropriate to sort of, in general, I would steer away from that question at press conferences. And, like she comes round at the end of the game, to say, can you give us a bit of Nessun Dorma, just on our way out? Or, I don't know a lot of opera. So that's probably not really strictly speaking opera. But there we go. Multi-talented.
Very, very talented. Very talented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look forward to her coming home in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, one of the new crop of youngsters, and alongside a couple of more experienced, and off we go. Semi-finals of the FA Cup will be a bare minimum by that point. We may even be the defending champions. We never know. Right, have I forgotten anything? I don't think so. I'm not. I feel like I'm fairly organised today. So no one is waving their hand or anything. So I'm going to go ahead with yes, that I did remember everything. And that means that we can round this week's show off a little bit longer than last time. I did mention to people on the coach that it was only an hour and a half, last week. And actually, Angie pointed out that wasn't enough time for her to fully, completely walk her dog. So
we've extended that for
actually,
Angie.
sorry. Charlie in the comments just reminded me that Evenman actually did play for Pumping because they had a friendly against Calgary, Calgary Wild, at the G-Tech Stadium in Brentford for some reason.
Yes, it was very.
I don't know anything at all about it because nobody's really talked about it.
I don't think anyone really knew about it. Very recent.
The Calgary Wild, obviously, the Canadian season's going to be starting fairly soon, and so they're on a bit of a tour. So I think maybe they rented the G-Tech or something like that. So
hired it out for.
And it looks actually also like Comfort Erhable played in goal for them, so that was nice.
Yeah, good. More experience for her. So that's going to round off this week's show. Remember, you can find us at SheGulls on X or Twitter, and of course Instagram, run by a friend of the podcast, Steve Gibbs. You can find us at SheGulls.com, where there are links to all our other areas of interest, including the Patreon, the songbook, which will hopefully be updated soon, especially if we get to the FA Cup final. Goodness me, we'll need to be telling those songs to everyone.
Can we just stop?
Sundry. We'll have to have a practice. We'll have to have a big group practice. You can email us. You can email us direct at SheGullsPodcast@outlook.com. We're also on Facebook. Just search SheGulls Podcast. And whilst you're over there, do follow Brighton Women Fans too for more general Albion chat. Big thank you, as always, to our sort of program sponsors, which are our Patreon members, Ben and Jess. And obviously to Tim and Joe, who've also donated to the show. And as always, I say we are funded and helped by you guys. So it really does make a big difference to us. So we really appreciate that. And to say that we couldn't do it without all of you, including the lovely people in the comments, then we wouldn't be telling the truth. So there we go. And all that remains for me to say is a massive thank you to you, Ben.
Well, thank you all.
An enormous thank you to you, Claire.
You're welcome.
A gigantic thank you to you, Abby.
Thank you.
And I should say this has been the SheGulls Podcast, powered by Albion Obsessed.
And up the Albion.
Night River.
None at all.